So, in this week's discussion, we are going to be covering that most momentous occasion,
which we mentioned a few weeks back, which is Mobile World Congress.
Indeed.
In Barcelona. It started on the 13th, which is, I think, we're recording on the 16th, so 3 days ago. Lots of interesting things happened. Well, there's a couple of really key stories, and lots of interesting releases as well, or announcements, I should say.
Break it down for us. Give us the news.
I mean, we heard lots of stuff from all the big kind of companies, really. So there was, like, obviously Sony Ericsson, Nokia, Samsung, and HTC. I think they were the big players there.
Was this a tablet fest again, like CES?
No, I mean, obviously it is mobile, so it's not exclusively phones, but it was actually on the whole phone announcements.
It was.
There was a few tablet things. Yeah, I think
I'm kind of getting a bit sick of tabs at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, this is the year of the tablet.
Yeah,
I reckon.
it is.
So, yeah, we're going to see a lot of it. Basically, I think CES is probably the tablet fest that we've kind of already addressed.
Yeah.
That didn't mean to rhyme. The tablet first that we've already addressed. Anyway.
You can't rap.
Shut up. I'm white, get over it. Yeah, there's lots of... I think I've got a list here of things I've picked up from the show. Like, should we just run through the key things?
Yeah.
I think starting with Sony Ericsson, they were actually one of the first guys to do a big proper event at the show.
Was this your typical keynote speech type thing?
This is what we got coming out. This is where we're at. This is what we want to go. That's
so
kind of it, really.
Give us the lowdown.
I just really noted down the releases here. The big president head honcho of Sony Ericsson came out talking about the Xperia range. 2010 they sold 10 million plus Xperia smartphones.
Wow.
So that's the X10, the X10 Mini, the X10 Pro, and I think there was another one, but I can't remember off the top of my head. Because Xperia is basically kind of like their smartphone.
Are they
brand.
in profit then? What did they do? That 10 million handsets? Was that?
Yeah, they made 1.1 billion euros of profit, which is amazing.
That's pretty good.
So Sony Ericsson's doing okay.
Right,
Sony are just being fucking retarded. But yeah.
Good thing they know how to, segment their different businesses. Otherwise they'd be in trouble.
And yeah, basically the thing that this is all about is that they have a series of 4 new Xperia handsets, one of which you might be able to guess what it is.
I would think some people have an inkling.
And they all have a different focus, but they're all pretty similar. I'll just run through some of the specs so you can get an idea.
And these are all in 2011 or 2012?
I think these are all designed to come out this year.
Right.
I think one of them especially is designed to be coming out in March.
Okay.
At least in the US. I'm not sure about the UK release or the European release, but yeah.
So what do we got?
The Arc is probably the big one, other than the one that we've already mentioned. Which is basically it's the biggest one, the most powerful one. It's it's like the multimedia centered phone, so it runs a Bravia engine. It's got more RAM than any of the others, I think, and it's got a nice big 4.2 inch reality display, which is
4.2 inch. That's pretty big, isn't it?
Pretty beefy, yeah. It's
What's your Desire Z have?
3.7,
right?
I think.
That's not bad.
4.2 is like one of the biggest before you get into tablet regions. Yeah. So yeah, it's very, very big, but it's to watch, I think, 16:9 aspect ratio, so it's quite wide, quite tall phone.
Tall and wide.
But it actually looks really nice.
Okay.
Like, the actual shape, because it's called the Arc, and the actual back of the phone is curved, so it gets thinner in the middle, and it looks really cool, really sleek. 0.5 gig of RAM.
Okay.
When I say reality display, that's like Sony's Samsung Super AMOLED. It's like their own brand of super high-res display. The camera, it's got an 8 meg camera which can record 720p video.
Wow.
Which is pretty awesome. And it's the first phone I've ever seen with an XMOR light sensor, which is what I've only ever dealt with in proper cameras, like digital cameras. So
what's it for?
It's a light sensor, so it makes the pictures look better.
Oh, okay, right.
So yeah,
nice.
You'll probably have stuff like exposure control and manual controls on the phone.
Has it got
camera.
a processor-wise Snapdragon or something? Or?
Yeah, they all. All of them.
It's a gigahertz, I assume. Right,
all of them have a gigahertz. I don't think it's Snapdragon. I think it's someone else, but I can't remember off the top of my head. So yeah, basically that's the Arc. Oh, and it's got an HDMI out, so you can plug it into your HDTV, which is awesome.
Sweet.
The Neo is kind of like, it looks like a Vivaz or a Vivaz 2, if you know what that is. Just take a look online. The Neo, is another one with the Bravia engine, same camera. It's very similar, actually. The only real difference is that it's got a 3.7 inch display and less RAM. So it's not as powerful as the Arc, and it's probably will be cheaper for that very reason. But you'll still be able to really enjoy like movies, take great pictures, and all that stuff. So it's just the cheaper option, basically. If you can't afford the Arc, you get the Neo. The Pro is the same again. There's not a huge amount to report here in terms of the differences. I mean, this one doesn't have an HDMI, which the other two do, but it has got a slide-out hardware keyboard. So, like the Desire Z, it's a full QWERTY keyboard.
Yeah, okay.
One thing that I'm very specific about with keyboards is I don't like when the buttons aren't staggered, like on a real computer keyboard. So they've got linear
Of course, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. Yours has that, doesn't
mine
it?
has that,
Yeah.
and I think the keyboard is excellent on my phone, and the Pro doesn't use that. So
That
see how
could
it
be an
goes.
issue.
And yeah, again, a gigahertz processor, all that stuff. Now the big one, which is the one we have mentioned, the PlayStation phone, the Xperia Play.
And they've completely dropped the PlayStation moniker, haven't they?
Yeah, basically, the
As
only
far as we
time
know.
you'll see PlayStation, it's not branded on the phone at all. The only thing you see is there's an app called the PlayStation Suite,
Yeah, you mentioned this.
which I'll talk
yeah.
more about. But yeah, basically, the specs are you get because of the kind of gaming-centered phone, some of the other things have suffered a little bit compared to the other Xperia phones. So you don't get an 8 meg, you get a 5 meg camera. You get a
okay.
4-inch display, 400 mega RAM, and a gigahertz processor, but it's got a separate GPU for extra graphical computing.
Sweet.
So that'll kick in
That's
only
good.
when you're playing the games, which is
Right.
awesome. And obviously, battery drain won't be as much of an issue as you might have thought. It will still be a big
I
problem.
suppose not.
I've looked between that and the Arc. They're both, I think, it was like 400 and something hours of standby,
Right.
which is pretty good.
I always take those with a massive pinch of salt.
Yeah, of course.
I never find
That's
them
like
to be
optimum.
accurate.
So shave at least 100 hours off that,
Mm,
maybe.
yeah.
I don't know how it's going to fare once you start playing games, like how much portability you actually get out of it before you kill your battery. Because I know with my phone, if you start playing on it with the browser or anything, you will kill the battery.
You will drain it very quickly.
Very fast. Obviously the cool thing is that rather than a hardware keyboard, it has a slide-out gamepad that simulates a PlayStation controller. It's got two capacitive kind of thumbsticks that are flat to the body of the phone.
Yeah.
But very cool. People said they kind of work.
I mean, I'm intrigued to see how well they work.
Wouldn't mind getting a go on, really.
Yeah.
Maybe if I go to one of the phone shops locally and try it out. It's got shoulder buttons as well, which is kind of cool. The PlayStation Suite is basically it's a collection of. It's like separate to the Android market. It's a highlighted like Sony have basically congregated all the titles that will work or best utilise the Xperia's kind of attributes. Mainly obviously the hardware gamepad. 50 titles available for launch.
50 titles. Wow.
Yeah, they've put a lot of work into it.
How many of them are new?
Some of them are existing IPs. Some of them might be completely new games. I don't know.
Yeah.
And also the PlayStation Suite, I think it is, will offer the whole back catalogue of PlayStation 1 games.
The whole back catalogue?
Well, not the whole, but
a
huge
nice. Okay.
catalogue of PlayStation, which is kind of awesome.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, so like Crash Bandicoot and all that kind of stuff. Oh, speaking of Crash Bandicoot, that comes with the phone.
Wow.
Which is awesome. So
and it is shipping in March.
Yeah.
This is
March
very soon.
is the one, yeah.
Right.
I don't know if that's a US. The fact that MWC is in Europe makes me assume that that's a global release
Maybe,
date.
yeah.
So we'll have to wait and see. And
they all run Android then?
All running Android 2.3 Gingerbread with like a
Okay.
separate. It's obviously skinned to Sony Ericsson.
Yeah.
They have Timescape and Mediascape for their kind of like their OS UI and their like media UI. And then other than that, there's some titles like Guitar Hero, Dead Space, Assassin's Creed, and Battlefield are all franchises that are kind of confirmed to come out on the system. So
well, we look forward to that then.
Yeah.
So let's move on from Sony. Let's move on to other companies.
Not as much news, but still some pretty important stuff.
Yeah.
Nokia, which is pretty impressive, have basically joined up with Microsoft.
Yeah, I heard about this.
I mentioned it on the site already. If you've seen it, basically, they've got married. They're going to be
Nokia Soft.
It's Nokia Soft, yeah.
Or
Microkia. Microkia, yeah. Anyway, so they showed like a mock-up of a device. Basically, they're going to make Windows Phone 7 their leading OS,
right?
Which is a pretty big thing. So they've been, considering all the Symbian support they've done for so long.
Quite interesting that they're doing that and choosing to not go with Android.
They looked at Android as well. Apparently, the decision was only made on the Thursday before MWC.
Wow.
Like, they were looking at...
So they can't have had anything to show, then?
No, they only had... That's what I mean. It was a mock-up.
Yeah.
Someone had obviously just thrown into the end of Photoshop. It actually looked really nice, though. But so it's a Nokia. You'll be able to get a Windows Phone 7 Nokia device. So it doesn't mean that Windows Phone 7 won't still be on other devices, but they are properly a partnership.
See, now I worry about this because although I hate Symbian, it's a shit OS.
It's pretty bad.
It is sort of what kind of defines Nokia's identity to a certain extent. Do you know what I mean?
Will the experience of a Nokia Windows Phone 7 be that different from another Windows Phone 7?
From any other Windows Phone, exactly, yeah, I wonder.
Or will it be inherently Windows or inherently Nokia?
Which is kind of what's happened with Android phones, to a certain extent.
How do you mean?
Well, other than HTC, a HTC Android phone is very different from...
Because of Sense.
Because of Sense.
Yeah.
So they
I'd say the same with the Sony
yeah.
Ericsson one, but I don't like it.
So that's what I mean. Yeah, exactly. I wonder if they're going to reskin Windows Phone 7 at all.
Interesting, yeah. Because I think the Metro UI, they did it so different. They tried to go so different to the other ones. I think if
yeah.
the worry is that if they let Nokia loose on it and do their own thing, they might try and bring it back to
exactly. And that's the thing. Windows Phone 7 is a closed source system. As is Android, actually. There is a bit of a myth that it's open source. It's not actually open source.
Really?
It's not truly.
Yeah.
It's open source in the sense that there is an open source. This is how Google work with Chrome and all that. There's an open source build of all of their products. Chromium is the open source version of Chrome. Same with Android. But the actual one that gets released, shipped by Google, is a closed source product. So developers get their hands on the open source one. Practically, it doesn't make much difference.
But it is officially not open source.
Technically not, but because they have an open source build, that lends itself very well to people being able to skin it however they want.
Right,
Windows Phone 7 does not have that; it's completely closed source. That's not to say that they wouldn't allow them to reskin it, but there seems to be there would, to my mind, be a lot less opportunity to do that.
It's interesting to see how Nokia and Microsoft are going to work together to make a phone that is a bit of both. But, you'll get the imaging capabilities and all that kind of stuff. And they're still going to support Symbian and MeeGo over 2011.
Okay.
And they still say they're going to be releasing, premium handsets on both OSs. Symbian they will eventually drop. MeeGo might still be around as well.
Well, let's see how this affects their sales.
Yeah.
What's next on the thing?
This is just one big phone announcement, which is kind of like expected, really, just from Samsung. The only thing of note I felt that they really had to mention was... the Samsung Galaxy S2 has been announced, which is a dual-core, 1 GHz processor, which is interesting. It's actually surprisingly one of the only dual-cores that I've seen announced.
Yeah.
In terms of the phones. It's got Super AMOLED Plus, which is... and it's going to have... the display is 14% larger than the original Galaxy S, but it uses less battery, which is good.
That's good.
Apparently it's amazing. It's going to have an 8-meg camera...
which can record 1080p video.
First phone I've seen that can do 30 frames per second 1080 HD.
Wow.
Which is pretty awesome. It's going to have a 2-meg front-facing camera with Skype
considerably
support.
bigger than any other front-facing camera that I've...
Yes.
They're almost always 1.3, aren't they? So.
And a point I've just thought about is the fact that Skype on Android currently doesn't offer video support.
Oh, no, it doesn't, does it?
So that might be a hint that Gingerbread will.
It will,
which is awesome. Face recognition unlock is a new feature as well.
Wow.
So rather than a fingerprint, it will look at the face and it will only unlock for your face. So don't put makeup on or change your haircut.
Don't shave or anything.
It will be running Gingerbread, so it must be...
soon then.
Yeah, must be some really cool features coming out of Gingerbread. And there's Samsung Hubs, which is pretty cool, which is basically there's like a friend stream style thing. It's all kind of congregated in one thing, but it has a friend stream thing so you can get your Facebook and your Twitter and all that stuff congregated together. And all your media as well on the phone. And the other thing is, it's kind of like it's weird. It's this service. They teamed up with this service called 7 Sprite or something.
I know 7 Sprite.
It's like a big music library, and you can basically it gives you access to 10 million tracks that you can stream on your phone, which is awesome.
I think the Ubuntu One store links to that, or
really?
something similar to it.
When you want to download tracks,
it's actually going. It's the back end is actually going to. I think it's them. It might be.
Someone like them. So that's pretty awesome.
Before we close the discussion, last little bit.
HTC?
The HTC tablet.
Yeah, there's...
we now know what it looks like, what it is.
Yeah, the HTC Flyer. It looks pretty cool. I don't know any specs off the top of my head. It's got a camera on the back, I saw that.
Did they announce any specs at all, or was it just a kind of a
to be honest, I haven't looked at it. There's so many things going on. But it looks about the same sort of size as the Galaxy Tab, the current one. It looks really cool. But it looks sleeker.
It is made flesh. It exists. So
yes, it definitely exists.
It's no longer rumour.
Yeah, and HTC also threw out a couple of kind of low-end devices, the Cha-Cha and the Salsa, which are basically low-end phones with dedicated hardware Facebook buttons, which is a bit weird. So, if you like that sort of thing. And the Cha-Cha is also like a BlackBerry with a full... That's exactly what I thought. But yeah, that's it, really. Oh, and then a few new S phones. So there's the Desire S.
Yes,
and a couple of other phones. The Wildfire successor. Yeah. But there's nothing massive about those. They're just, better on what's already there.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that's basically it. There was a lot of stuff going on. Any more news we'll talk about next week on that?
Yeah. Well, let's bring the discussion to a close and move on to our review section.